Hi everybody, I'm Brett.
And I'm Sandy.
Together we own Fable Photo and Video, and we hope you enjoy our free video blog series on everything wedding and photography related.
To keep these videos coming to you, please like us on all social media sites. And if you have any questions, please email us at fablephotoandvideo@me.com. Enjoy!
Thank you. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about flash. Using on-camera flash and off-camera flash, whether you're using just a speed light or a bigger studio strobe. Okay, with flash, so really a couple of key important tips here. And in another video we're going to talk more about all the different shooting modes, but I really only always use manual. I really only use manual. I don't use aperture, I don't use shutter speed priority. Manual is the only thing I shoot in, and for a lot of good reasons. One, I'm the photographer, I'm the one creating the picture. I don't want to depend on my camera trying to create a picture for me. But also, your camera really doesn't understand what you're shooting. And when you're shooting a bride and groom, the groom is going to be wearing something very dark, light absorbent, telling the camera you have a very dark scene. The bride's going to be wearing typically a white dress, covered in sequins, shiny, reflective, putting a lot of light back in the camera, telling your camera that you have a very brightly lit scene. So if you're shooting in aperture mode or shutter speed priority mode, you may take two pictures. The camera's going to, one of them is going to come out where the camera thinks the image is seen as dark, gives you a picture that's overexposed because it's trying to compensate for the dark scene. Another one, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to see a lot of light coming in the camera, say, oh, this scene's overexposed, and then compensate, and you get a underexposed picture. So when you're shooting a bride and groom together, one wearing very reflective clothing, one wearing dark clothing, it can be very difficult for your camera. So if you shoot in manual mode, you get to solve this problem. We've shot so much that it really doesn't take me just a couple of shots usually to get my settings right. I can walk into a room and pretty much know pretty close to where my settings are going to be. If you don't have that level of comfortability with your camera, you just need to practice. Practice, practice, practice. It comes down to just working with your camera a lot, knowing its capabilities, and knowing what to do. So let's talk just a minute about on-camera flash. On-camera flash is pretty much always going to be not what you want. In the best of situations, it's still a bad choice. However, with events and weddings, a lot of times you don't have a choice. It's a light source that we just need to have, and we need to have it really fast. So it is usually the quickest light source we have. When we set up our cameras, we always have the flash on camera, and then we use our trigger, which we're just running to the side of our camera through a PC cord. Allows me to control the on-camera flash and use off-camera flash at the same time or separately, however I want to do it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute as we get to off-camera flash. But when we're working with on-camera flash, because it's always going to be a somewhat inferior light source, there's a couple things I like to do that's going to help me make this the best it can possibly be. One is I like to put a little diffuser on my flash. It's just going to soften the light a little bit. It's very easy, and I like a small diffuser because I'm on the go, I'm running around, I don't want something big and bulky. Then I'm shooting in manual. So what I want to do is I want to use as much ambient light as I can and as little flash power as possible. So I want to bring up my ISO to whatever I'm comfortable with on my camera. Typically on my A99, 2000, 2500 ISO is a setting that I'm very comfortable shooting with. I'm not going to have a lot of noise. I'm going to be able to easily knock out that noise in Lightroom. And then I'm going to use as little power from my flash as possible. Usually at a reception for a wedding, I'm going to be shooting around 1/16, 1/32 power on my flash. And that'll let me have a photo that has the least amount of harsh light coming from my flash as possible. Also, it lets me bring in a lot of that ambient light. So if there's candles or decor lighting, I'm still going to be able to see that. And it's not going to be overpowered by the flash. It's not going to be a hard look. I'm going to be able to get light from my background into my scene, into my picture, and I'm going to get an image that's the best it can possibly be when using on-camera flash. So that's a bit about on-camera flash. Let's talk about off-camera flash. Okay, we're going to take a look at off-camera flash now, and we're using two different light sources here. One, we're looking at our White Lightning X3200s, which I absolutely love. These completely change the way you are able to shoot on location because we are powering them through the Vagabond Mini Lithium power packs. They have a ton of power. They're incredibly small, attached right onto the light stand, very lightweight, very easy to move around, and it doesn't require you to be plugged in. The other light source we're going to look at here is just using a speed light, also very portable, very light, easy to move around. Does not have nearly the capability of your White Lightnings, but also has some other advantages for different uses. So let's take a look at our little speed light here first. Okay, looking at off-camera flash here for weddings and events. One probably thing most wedding photographers do is just to use a speed light on the light stand. It's very light, very portable, much better than on-camera flash, but it still has some limitations which we're going to look at. But first let's look at its advantages. Very easy to move around. One, it recycles very fast, so if you're shooting a bouquet toss or cake cutting or some moment where you need it to run off several shots really quick, these are going to be a great option. I also like them because they do produce a little bit harder light that can be a very dramatic effect for a lot of pictures and comes out great for black and whites and different things that we like to do that we're going to show you here in a slideshow coming up. But limited in its power, limited in what you can really do. Great for receptions, great for being very fast on the go, but does not necessarily have the capability of everything we'd like to do. If we're going to shoot a wedding and a reception with these, we're going to set a couple of them up. Typically we're going to cross light the floor, so we're going to have one set to the left of the floor, one set on the right side of the floor, depending on just how the dance floor is set up and what the background is that we're going to shoot. And then we also, on our camera, have it set up to where, again, we're using our wireless trigger on a bracket running by PC cord to the camera, and then we also have a flash on the camera. So we're set up to shoot flash on the camera with the strobes offset or individually. So if someone comes up and asks for a picture, I got to turn, I got to shoot, my strobes or my speed lights are positioned behind me, I can turn, shoot, still just use the flash on the camera and get what I need to get. If you're set up with just the wireless trigger on top of the camera, you either need to have a second camera or switch up, take it off, put on your flash real quick. It's not a real quick, speedy method. So we like to have the flash on the camera and then wireless trigger running by PC cord to our camera. Okay, now let's look at our White Lightnings. So these are the White Lightning X3200s. They are the most powerful studio strobe that Pulse Buff makes. They are 1,320 watts of power, and they really give us some great options. So depending what point we're going to be shooting with the White Lightnings, we're going to have some different things we're going to do with whether we're using an umbrella, whether we're using a long throw with some diffusion material on it, or we might just be using the reflector itself. Again, when we're shooting these, just like before, we're going to have our flash on camera and our trigger connected by PC cord. Let's take a little better look at these. If I'm outside, I don't have anything to bounce the light on, so typically I'm going to use an umbrella. I like using umbrellas because if I'm moving around, which I do a lot at a wedding or event, it's very quick just to pull this out, collapse the umbrella, and I can pick this up very easily and be on the go. If I do have a spot that can bounce the light, if I'm at church or a reception, I'm usually going to shoot with just the reflector on. These have plenty of power to where I'm going to actually take this light, point it either up and shoot it straight up, bounce it off the ballroom ceiling, or bounce it off a wall, and I'm able to easily fill an entire room by using 2 of these for group shots, or at a reception I can blanket the entire dance floor in an even light, and it's going to completely change the way you shoot. I guarantee it, once you shoot like this, you will never want to go back, because it makes your exposure completely the same for all your shots, and everything, the light is just soft and beautiful, and it works out great. Now when we're shooting artistic shots for a bride and groom, we're on the go, so a lot of times I'm just going to use this, which is a long throw with some diffusion material on top of it. And why I use that for a couple reasons. One is that I like the control it gives me. A lot of times I don't want to have a lot of light spill coming out onto the ground and the grass and everything. I want that to be just really on my subject of the bride and groom. And with long throw, that works out really well. I can put the light from a distance off and put it on my subject. And with just some diffusion material on here, I'm able to soften the light quite a bit. Also, being on the go at weddings, a softbox is bigger, it catches the wind. An umbrella can catch the wind, can blow your stand over. It's bigger, more awkward to move around, so I have found this works out very well for me. And speaking of dealing with wind in various situations like that, I have just made a little sandbag here that comes on and off very easily. Just putting a little quick release clamp on, so all of my light stands have that, so I can take that on and off really quick and be on the go. Also with the Vagabond mini lithium power packs, it has this little clip that comes right onto your light stand, so you can take this on and off very fast. Works out pretty well, but if you're really running around with this, it can kind of bounce off. So all we've done is taken a few little small bungee cords, wrap them around, and I can be able to run with this and it won't fall off. So that is a look at how we shoot with our white lightnings. We're going to show you some pictures that illustrate how we can do all that and really what their capabilities are. One last thing I want to show you about our light stands is that a lot of times at a reception, you're very crunched in space. You don't have a lot of space to move around and do everything that you want to do with light stands, and they kind of clutter the room and they're kind of overbearing and become too much. So we have modified our light stands to help us out in that situation. All I've done is taken a little pipe clamp here, and then I put that around with a screw sticking out, and then I've taken my universal umbrella mount. I can put that on, and then I can just quickly put this on here, and I can have another light set up where I'm shooting off speed lights or my white lightning without putting 4 or 5 light stands all around the ballroom, which if it's a small ballroom can be just too much. And of course, because my wife and I are usually shooting at the same time, one of us is going to be using the speed lights, another one of us is using the white lightnings. So we're usually using both light sources at the same time. So it's kind of handy to not have to have 4 or 5 light stands set up if we want to be a little bit more condensed in what we're doing. So that's some tips about off-camera lighting. We're going to show you a little slideshow and hope you enjoy that.